Hey everybody, Josh from Silca here, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Josh, that is the most amazing shirt I have ever seen. Is that Silca Shop Dog Rico on your shirt? And the answer is yes, that is Rico on my shirt. And Rico's on my shirt because this was a gift from my amazing wife and children who know how much I love that dog. And thinking about gifts really got me thinking, you know, we have a product here at Silca that is 100% far and away our most gifted product. Beloved by all of us here. A lot of you watching this have probably either given or received one of these if you've been a long-time Silca customer. But I thought we should touch on it again because it's been, what, 5-6 years since we launched. And there's just a lot of detail in, besides being a beautiful product and a great gift, there's a lot of technical detail we can cover. So the product is this, the Silca HX1 toolkit, a beautiful set of S2 steel hex keys. That is a Swiss-made steel, actually buy from Europe. Has a full complement of S2 steel Torx bits, flathead Phillips, but really the star here, of course, is this beautiful case. And I just want to tell the story behind this product. So, you know, when I was working with the pro teams in Europe, starting probably 20 years ago, I noticed a lot of the pro mechanics would have these beautiful Swiss-made hex keys that were, you know, $100. And I remember thinking, wow, $100 for hex keys, that's a little bit crazy. And I was actually one of the mechanics at CSC back in the day, Frederick, who told me, he said, you know, there's no other tool in the box that can cause as much heartbreak, frustration, and lost sleep as the hex key. And you think of it from a pro mechanic's perspective, and this is totally true, right? A rounded head in a, you know, a stem bolt or something, and now you've got to get it out, and maybe it's countersunk in there, and you have to carefully drill it, and it, you know, it takes a 2-minute adjustment can now become hours of work, and then actually in extracting the rounded head bolt, you actually are putting the adjacent components at risk, especially with some of these super lightweight carbon components. So the pro mechanics really have a thing for high-end hex keys. So I got a little bit obsessed. I started buying from PB Swiss, a beautiful Swiss-made brand. But of course I started thinking, well, I think we could improve on these. You know, I love the rainbow-colored PB Swiss set, but they're pretty slippery when wet. They're actually tend to be a little bit undersized relative to nominal within the ISO spec for a hex key, and they are coated with traditional chrome, which is not my favorite tool coating for a couple of reasons that we'll get into here. So HX1, not only an amazing and beautiful gift, but really a very highly valued technical piece of equipment you will find throughout the pro peloton. So let's just quickly go into some of the technical details that I find the most fun. So first of all, it's a magnetic closure on the box. It's really meant to be operated one hand. You know, I sort of had this vision of you're working on your stand, you need to reach over, pop it open with one hand. The keys, it's sort of a mise en place. You know, I grew up working in restaurant kitchens, and if you're familiar with chefs, the mise en place, everything in its place. So you have your kit here, everything in its place, you know right where your tools are. And I will say, as someone who's sloppy, it actually also kind of promotes you putting things back where they belong. I think we've all used the 4mm and then wandered around the garage for 10 minutes wondering where the 4mm went. If you're working from the kit, you really do tend to put it back after you use it rather than just setting it in some random place because it has a place. And so everything in its place, we start working there. We're also, I think, quite special and unique in that we have this adapter for the 6mm. This is a 6mm to 1/4 inch bit adapter, and it allows you to convert the 6mm to Torx, flathead, or Phillips. What's unique here is that we say PH1 and PH2, but these Phillips head crosshead bits are actually cut to the now defunct JIS, Japanese standard. And why, Josh, would you cut your Phillips head bits to a 30-year-old defunct Japanese standard? It's because Shimano continues to use the JIS screw head in their derailleur limit screw adjusters, and that's why no Phillips head screwdriver that you've ever owned fits those screws just right. These guys actually kind of click in. You can actually put this in a Shimano limit adjustment screw and it'll just kind of stick in place. It is a perfect fit. It's a game changer if you've never used a JIS bit in a JIS screw. The full complement of Torx, because Torx is far and away the best standard out there. And if I had my way, I would make all the bolts on all the bicycles Torx, but not everybody feels that way. And so the adoption of that has been slower than I would like to see it. But now it's here so that you have it. Let's talk about the hex keys. S2 steel from Switzerland. When this steel is drawn, it is drawn to the low limit of the tolerance for hex keys. So what is tolerance, you say? You know, in my engineering world, nothing is round, nothing is flat, nothing is hexagonal, and nothing is perfect to size, right? And no matter how perfect you think it is, somebody can come along with a better measurement device and show you how wrong you are. The ISO spec for a hex key, say this 6mm, is actually +0 -0.04. So every hex key in the market theoretically should be 5.96 to 6.0 when measured across flats. And if you measure these, you'll find that they're all oftentimes not even consistent within. You might have, you know, 5.96, 97, 96 as you go flat to flat. The reason the steels are drawn to the low end of the spec is that you're going to put a coating on it, and they oftentimes tend to grow during the heat treat. So one of the things I love about S2 is that it is incredibly dimensionally stable in the heat treating process. So, you know, your typical Blue brand hex key with the black oxide coating, you know, that's a CRV steel. This S2 can be hardened to be about 25 to 30% harder than that steel. But it also remains much more dimensionally stable in that hardening process. But what really excites me about these is we've gone away from chrome plating to a process called thin, dense chrome. And thin, dense chrome, and actually I've got some graphics here that we can look at. So traditional chrome plating, and we'll just put it on the screen here, traditional chrome plating sort of grows almost like a forest of trees up from the metal surface. And then those trees sort of thicken and grow together. But what you end up with are some natural sort of vertical gaps. They look almost like cracks under a scanning electron microscopy. And that's why, if you've ever been into like old cars or old bikes, that's why chrome will rust in time. That there are actually millions of little micro pathways from the outside down into the metal through these sort of gaps in the trees and the forest of chrome. There is a much harder, much better, much more expensive chrome plating process that's known as thin, dense chrome. And when you cross-section it, it looks like this. And the way I always tend to liken it, and you can kind of see it in the images here, but it's almost as if you dumped a million pancakes on the ground, right? They have grown in sort of little platelets, little pancake-sized circles, almost discs, overlapping each other. And what happens here is that because they're overlapping each other as they grow, there are no pathways to the bottom or to the base metal, but there are also the chrome is much, much stronger because you don't have those natural sort of vertical gaps, or, you know, almost like cracks in the chrome. And so you actually end up with a much harder, much stronger chrome plated surface. But from a tolerancing perspective, thin, dense chrome is exciting to me because it grows much, much slower, like an order of magnitude slower than traditional chrome. And so, you know, you think of a traditional hex key, we're going to extrude this guy at 5.96 millimeters. We're going to toss him in the chrome for maybe 2 minutes. And it's going to grow out to, say, 5.97, 98. If you leave it in there just fractionally too long, the part can become oversized. Traditional chrome also concentrates on corners because it's an electrolytic process. And so you can actually overgrow the corners of a tool like a hex key if you leave it in there even seconds too long. So your traditional chrome process, you know, you're talking maybe a few minutes, get it out, and it's what it is. With thin, dense chrome, it grows about 1/10 as fast. And so you can actually continually dip the part, remove it, measure it, put it back in, grow more chrome. We actually grow these tools to size. And so what that allows us to do, and let's put a graphic up here. Here's my 596 to 6.0. Your traditional tool is targeting the middle of that range, right? So we're going to say, you know, the traditional nominal is probably a 5.98, but rarely are you going to get tools much bigger than that because of this overgrowth of the chrome plating risk. And so, you know, the majority of the tools are probably at to a little below the nominal of the tolerance band. We actually set 5.98 as the floor in the size of our 6mm tool. And so the smallest it can be is the 5.98, which is about as big as the normal tool can be. And we actually will grow it all the way up 5.99 right up to the 6.0. And so you can be assured that every single tool in your HX1 kit has been grown and measured to that top 50% of the spec. What that means for you is you can take your typical, you know, Blue brand cheap CRV tool, put it in a fastener, you know, titanium screw or something, round the head out, and then you can almost always take a Silca HX1 hex key, put it in that same fastener, and break it free, because the tool is on average going to be about 0.2 of a millimeter larger than the tool that did the damage. So our tool is actually touching the sides of the fastener in places that the other tool never could possibly get to because it just wasn't big enough. You know, what does this mean in practice? Well, here's a study that we did with an independent laboratory, and you can see these are actual microscopic. I think it's a 40 times magnification for an ISO test. This is a reverse load. This is a 4mm tool in this image, and this is a reverse torque load, plus or minus 10 Newton meters, which is a pretty good amount for a 4mm tool. And you can see here the damage done to the tool. This is a traditional CRV tool, and you can see the test, it's a 50 cycle test, was actually stopped at cycle 28. Look at the damage in the CRV tool in this picture, and look at the damage in the fastener, right? 28 cycles at plus minus 10 Newton meters, and we have significantly damaged both the tool and the fastener. Look at the Silca HX1 tool in the same test going all 50 cycles, plus minus 10 Newton meters, and you can see there's like no difference. I mean, it looks like a brand new tool still. That is the advantage of using a much harder steel that's much stronger with a much harder coating that has actually been grown to size. And so, you know, when we say no tool can cause as much heartbreak or damage as a hex key, you know, this is really what we're talking about, right? And this is one of the things that pro mechanics and certainly bike shops can get themselves in trouble with. When you've got an inexpensive hex key that you're using all the time, it begins degrading very quickly. And as it degrades, it becomes smaller and more deformed, and then it's doing more damage to those fasteners, which is making it even more damaged and deformed. And it's just really an ugly cycle that you can get into. By using superior steel, superior coatings, we can really prevent most all of that. And so that's, you know, probably the biggest advantage to, you know, very high-end hex keys and just tools in general, right, is that you're less likely to do the damage. The last thing I'll talk about here is one of my favorite aspects of this. Those PB Swiss tools, I love them, but that traditional powder coating on there gets a little slippery, you know, when it's oily and your hands are greasy, because it's just a powder coat paint. If you're familiar with the Truck Bed Liner product, it's a sprayable TPU polyurethane. That's actually the same product that we use to coat these HX1s. It is a rubberized TPU coating, spray applied. It has a nice texture on it that remains grippy even when it's oily and your hands are greasy. But also, because it's rubberized, it is a protective coating against slips. So, you know, you slip or you drop a tool and it lands on the painted surface of your bike. This is an actual rubberized coating that makes it much less likely to cause damage, you know, in a slip up like that, right? We all want to pretend that we don't do it. We've all done it. You know, it also gives the tool a nice bounce when it hits the concrete floor when you drop it. Something I think we've all also done many, many times. So there you go. What do you get dad or mom or your favorite mechanic for Father's Day, Mother's Day, birthday, holiday, Christmas, Hanukkah? I think it's pretty hard to beat the beauty, the longevity of the Silca HX1. And then the final piece that I'll add to this, this qualifies for Silca's ultimate level warranty. That is a lifetime warranty plus 25 years. In the first 2 years, it even covers loss. So you lose the 3 millimeter hex key or the 2 millimeter, we'll cover that for the first 2 years of the life of this product. So it truly is a forever heirloom quality product. I don't think there's anything else out there quite like it. So there you go. Make someone happy, even if that someone is yourself. I think that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.